That's
Alrighty,
cool.
so it is 1 o'clock, and I do want to begin. So we will begin. Um, so I'm going to introduce myself. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, I should say. My name is Tony Salazar. I am the president of the Fresno State RTDNA, which stands for the Radio, Television, Digital News Association at Fresno State. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. And I am majoring in broadcast journalism. I'm also minoring in crim and also working on obtaining my meteorology certificate at Fresno State. So lots going on. Busy guy, but I love it. And again, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. I know this is all of you guys' weekend, so I do appreciate that you guys did take time out of your weekend to talk to us and give us some word of advice. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce my fellow officers. So I'll go ahead and start from my list, and I'll go with Mark Lopez.
Sweet. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Anthony Lopez. I am the, I was about to pull out the other job that I do, but I'm the social media coordinator here at RTDNA. I'm the one that shows all you guys' headshots, and I'm also a broadcast journalism major here at Fresno State. I'm a transfer student from the Bay Area. I grew up in Richmond, California, and yeah, this is my last year here at Fresno State. So trying to make it.
Alrighty, thank you, Mark. And then next up we have Karina. Hi, Karina.
Hi, so my name is Karina. I'm also a senior. This is my last year, and I'm also a broadcast journalism major and a minor in public relations.
Nice.
Thank you, Karina. And then next up we have our outreach chair, Anna Cruz.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ana Cruz Lopez. I'm the outreach chair for RTDNA, like Tony said. This is also my senior year, and I'm majoring in broadcast journalism. I recently added a minor also, and yeah, I hope we have a good meeting today, a good webinar.
Thank you. And next up we have Jocelyn. Hello, good afternoon.
Hey guys, how you guys doing? My name is Jocelyn, and this is my, I'm a senior. I don't know, I feel weird saying that. I have one more semester. My major is broadcast journalism. I do have an interest in like radio podcasting, so I'm super excited to hear everything you guys have to say. And thank you guys for joining.
Thank you. And then certainly least but not least is Clarissa. She is our vice president. Good afternoon.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Clarissa Marquez. I am the vice president, as Tony said. I'm super excited, looking forward to today. I'm actually a biology major. I am actually going on the pre-med route right now, but I have MCJ as my minor because I loved it. I did video production in high school, and sorry, my mom in the background. It's okay. Oh my gosh. She's all, my husband, she's all yelling at my dad. Okay. Right, this quarantine. So yeah, I'm actually pre-med, but my hopes with my MCJ background is to be like a medical specialist on ABC 30 or something, you know, be the one giving the news out, like such as going on in the pandemic right now, how they have doctors on specials, like updating the public. So that's kind of what I'm going with my MCJ background. But yeah, super excited to hear you guys' wise words today, and let's get it started.
Alrighty, yeah. So just like what Clarissa said, let's get it started. So I'll start from the top. There's no particular order. I'll start with the one and only Danny Salas. Danny, Thank you so much for being here. You may have heard him on your radio as he is the afternoon drive host in Central California for Q97.1. He began his radio career at KFSR here. Well, not here, but at Fresno State behind me.
Isn't that Fresno State behind you? So yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
I started
right
there.
Behind me. At Fresno State, where he earned his bachelor's degree in mass communication. Danny is a beloved fan of West Coast hip hop, WWE, Johnny Cash, and cool shoes. Danny, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your day off to hang out with us. We really do appreciate it. So thank you.
I appreciate you. Did you just read that off my bio? Yeah.
I just read that off.
Tight.
It looked really great. And so next up we have.
There's literally nothing else I could add to it. That was cool. But yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate the invite. Right? I appreciate the invite. Anytime I get a chance to do anything, especially with Fresno State, because it's my school, I jump at the opportunity. So this is going to be really, really cool. I look forward to answering questions and hopefully helping out. But it's cool just to like see you guys, especially in your last year at Fresno State, a little different. But it's really cool just to be a part of something so unique and so cool. So hopefully I could add a little something today, but thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And then next up, we have Crystal Rosas. She is a Bay Area native and graduate from Cal State East Bay with a degree in business administration. She is the current host of her own show, Wild 94.9. You can catch her on air from 7 p.m. to 12 a.m. Crystal is also a producer, blog writer, and social media editor, and has branded content for famously known brands such as Google, Jarritos, and the Golden State Warriors, among others. She has also joined the Oakland Athletics as their social media host. Crystal, thank you so much for being here. Again, we really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day as well. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for reaching out and asking if I could be part of this, and I'm happy to help.
Thank you so much. And then next up, we have Matt Otstad. Matt, I just got to start off. I remember when you were a reporter at KC24, I would see you and your energetic self. It was just amazing. So I just have to put that out there because it was just, I remember just watching you and on live television, and now talking with you and you joining a Zoom. It just, it doesn't feel real. But again, thank you, Matt, for being here.
Wow.
Matt is an alumni of Penn State University. He has spent over a decade, yes, a decade and a half in the broadcast news field, as I just previously mentioned.
Not to interrupt you, that needs to be updated. I'm now 2 decades plus.
Oh, 2 decades. Nice. Thank you so much for
See the
correcting me
gray?
there. yeah, exactly. Round of applause there. And you can catch him on the radio waves weekdays from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on KMJ Radio, where he is not only on the radio, but he's also busy teaching media courses at Fresno State. Matt, again, thank you for being here, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us.
Well, it is absolutely my pleasure, and thank you for including me. It's great to see 2 of my former students, Jazz and Erica. Oh no, Karina. Erica is another. But, you know, my first class at Fresno State, I taught halfway through, everything went crazy. So looking to shed some light on that. In addition to being on the radio 5 years, almost 20 on TV. And Tony, you mentioned meteorology. I've studied meteorology. I've done TV news for the better part of 10 years. So if you need any hints, tips, you know, recommendations, my first recommendation to all, transfer to the School of Business. Because if you're looking to get rich doing this, you're in the wrong line of work. So let's get that right out on the table.
I co-sign that.
But it is an amazing life, and I am just honored to be here with one and all, such a distinguished group, and hopefully I can add something to the discussion. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. And next up, we have Terry Ann. She is born and raised in Portland, Oregon. Most people recognize her familiar warm voice from Soft Rock 98.9, where she is a radio host and also the program director. Terry Ann occasionally is also on the airwaves at Sunny 106.3 and K103 FM. Terry Ann, thank you so much for being here. Again, we really appreciate it. And I just can't wait to see what you all have to say and as far as advice to our students here, and some of which who are graduating with next semester. So lots of exciting things going on here.
I'm excited too. Yeah, I've been in the business for 30. I was just counting the years and I thought, my goodness, 33 years already. I got in it in 88, my graduating year in high school. And back then there were things called national broadcasting schools. So that's where I went. And then I got on the job training. So I went that route instead of college. To me, it was a little bit quicker, but it still in the end got me where I wanted to be. But joining iHeart, I moved down here 12 years ago from Portland, and it's been an amazing career. I've gotten a lot to do with iHeart. I've gotten a lot of training in so many different areas, and have been able to, and been very fortunate to be on the air in several different states because of the electronics and just how the business has gotten so much better now and what we're able to do. And I'm sure Danny and all the others can attest to that as well. The reach of what we are able to do now is pretty amazing.
Thank you so much. And so we're going to start with the question process. So I will explain how this works. So we'll start by asking all of the panelists the first 5 questions, and then we'll open it up to questions that some of our members have submitted. So basically how this is going to work, we'll start by asking each of the panelists to answer question number 1, We'll go all the way around, and then we'll ask question number 2. So it's pretty straightforward, nothing to stress about. So without further ado, the first question that we have pertains to on-air radio / podcasting questions. So the first one is, what are the different dynamics with the radio? And what we mean by that is, like, since you can't really, you know, when you do broadcast, for the most part, you're on TV so people can visually see you. But when you're on the radio or when you're podcasting, right? Excuse me. What do you imagine? I mean, you can't really see your viewers or your listeners. So what do you imagine, you know, when you're on the airwaves? And
All right, who goes first?
And go ahead.
All right, I'll take it. So with radio, depending on what your target demo is, depending on what your format is, there's a specific person that you're going to want to speak to. So for me, our format, it's CHR, Rhythmic Top 40, basically. So I don't know, females 18 to 34. So yeah, even though I'm not looking at anybody in the studio, that's who I'm talking to the most. I'm talking to everybody, but I'm focusing on that 18 to 34 female. I'm talking to her in a way that I want her to see me as someone she can trust. I want to be relevant and informative and entertaining, but to me, that target demo it's so important to know who the main audience is. And for me, like I said, I'm talking to that female who I just saw at Target, or that female who's just getting some takeout at In-N-Out. That's the person I'm talking to in my head when I crack the mic.
That's a good point. I like to look at it as, because my target demo is very similar to Danny's, but on the older end of this scale. I'm 25-54 females. So I'm personally in that demo. So I like to look at it as, what is it that all of my friends that are females, moms, non-moms, that sort of thing, identify their likes, identify their fears, you know, kind of go through, especially now with COVID and what we're going through. Identify the things that make you relatable to that person. How can you be similar to that person? And then they can attach a kind of a relation to you through that. If you've got kids, you may say something about your kids that's very relatable to them because they've got kids. Or if you don't have kids, whatever the dynamic is, really look for, as Danny was saying, those qualities in your listener and talk to those qualities, because you'll reach a lot of people that way and you'll hit those emotional marks and they'll attach to you.
And I guess I'll follow up next, Crystal, with your kind permission, because the radio aspect that I'm in right now is a little bit of a different animal from Terry Ann and Danny. That in news radio, your demographic is, I mean, you have a target, but you are meant to be espousing and transferring information to one and all. I know Jazz and Karina can probably talk about it from being in my class, and they probably heard me say it 1,000 times, that your mission and your job isn't to share your opinion. When it comes to news, you are to share the news. But as far as the real crux of radio, I was instructed back when I was a wee newbie at Penn State, the very first class that we are instructed to take after the basic print journalism is radio news. And the purpose of that is to build your voice. Because even if you are radio or television, without a voice, without the ability to articulate and realize that some words deserve a stronger punch than others, then you're just, the monotone delivery falls flat, regardless of what medium you're in. If it's television, if it's radio, if it's podcasting, you need to develop your voice. And I had a fantastic professor. His name is Charlie Dubois. I still keep in touch with him to this day. And he imparted a nugget of information that has stuck with me throughout my 20 plus years of broadcasting. And that is, people can hear you smile. Think about that for a second. They can hear a smile. So if you are really not wanting to be there, if you're having a bad day behind the mic, as any one of my distinguished panelists can tell, your audience hears that. Even if they can't see your face, they can pick up on the inflection because they are not stupid. So you have to realize that if it's news, if it's adult top 40, if it's the Oakland Athletics, whatever your audience is, they are tuning in for a specific reason. And it is your job to give them what they want. If you can interject and make it personal, so much the better. But never forget, never lose sight of the real mission why you're there. They're not tuning in for you. You're the whipped cream on the ice cream sundae. They want their hot fudge and vanilla first. Then you give them the added bonus. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, like everyone said, we all have target demos. We all have our own formats, and we all also in our own specific location. So it's also important to add your local aspect to whatever you're sharing, because that really adds on top of the relatability factor. Because when you're saying to people like, you know, hey, I was just driving by Oakland and this and that, this is making people from the Bay Area, you know, make them feel like you're here with them. You're just one of them. And especially now, as Terry said, that radio is moving in a direction where people are recording in one city, but on the whole other side of the country. Knowing your area and knowing what's local and knowing what people in that area talk about is also very vital to relating and to connecting and to building that relationship with your listener.
I think if I could add one more thing is don't be afraid to be real. Be who you are. That's how you build that really tight relationship with listeners, is being just let the cloak down. Talk about your personal lives. Talk about what you struggle with. Talk about your successes and joys and things that make you a bit nervous, especially right now, because your listeners are going to do nothing but relate to you.
And to go along with that, Terry Ann, the other big thing, and my students have heard me say this 1,000 times, don't fear making a mistake. It makes you human. I make mistakes every single day I'm on the air, whether it was radio or television. You know what? If you slip up or you flub up and it makes you laugh. Be part of the joke with your audience. Let them in on whatever you can, because you're, first and foremost, you're human. And just like Crystal said, if it's where you live, you know, you can talk about, well, I was driving down the 99 and I passed Herndon and I saw this, or, you know, I'm on the Bay Bridge and I saw this, or I'm on the 405 in LA and some jerk with a bumper sticker that said, honk if your horn is broken, cut me off. You know, that just reinforces the fact that people that are listening to you where you are can relate. But at the same time, and it's not just radio, TV news stations, for example, the Fox 26 affiliate in Fresno also does the newscast, I believe, for a station in Utah. That's the kind of globalization that happens. And with the proliferation of not only strong broadcast signals, but of the internet and streaming, we have dedicated listeners to our news program in the Central Valley in California, in Virginia, in Florida, my parents in Pennsylvania. We have a dedicated listener in Sweden for some odd reason, and it's global. So, like they say, act locally, but think globally.
Yeah, and I just want to add, I think, Matt, I believe that station is in Omaha.
Omaha, that's right. Sorry, not Utah.
Yes.
Omaha,
No,
you're right.
yeah, no worries. But I also want to follow up with what you had mentioned, Matt. You had said that, you know, you can't really, I guess, showcase, you know, when you're on the radio, you can't show that you're having a bad day. You kind of have to leave it at home or at the door, you know. So that kind of goes into my next question. You know, we all have bad days. We all, you know, we have families, we have stuff going on at home, and some days are much difficult than others. You know, like, what are some tips or advice as far as, like, let's say somebody's having a bad day and they have to go to work? How do you not bring that that bad energy onto the radio? I mean, of course, we can just leave it at the door, but I feel like it's much easier said than done.
Who's gonna take it?
You talk first, Danny.
Right.
You jumped on that grenade. Go for it.
Right. All right. Well, it goes without saying, everybody has a bad day, but it also goes without saying we all have a job to do. So whether you work at a hotel, which I did, whether you work retail or a restaurant, you have a job to do, man. There are people who are hungry and want to get that food served up to them promptly and accurately. And more importantly, you have a boss who's going to pay you to do your job well. So it doesn't matter what's going on in your personal life. Like Terry Ann said, it's cool every once in a while to say, man, I'm kind of having a crummy day to your listeners. It helps relate to them. But man, you can't bring that energy to a TV newscast or a radio broadcast. You do have to leave it at the door. You just have to figure out a way to do it. Every day is a good day for somebody, and you got to be that person that just shines a light and like, you know what, man, it is a good day. This dude's having a good time. I'm gonna have a good time. You have to be a professional, man. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. everyone's going to have a rough time getting through a day one way or another. And hopefully you have a job that's going to allow you to give you an outlet to kind of forget about it yourself.
Yeah, and allow me to follow up with that with a good movie quote. Remember, it's not show friend, it's show business, and it's your job. But at the same time, if you're having a crappy day, and we all do, you can bring your audience in on that and go, you know what, I was having a miserable day, but being here behind the mic, getting a chance to talk with you guys, it's turning my day around. If I got a phone call or, you know, a fun story or just a song that I can play that, you know, it's picking me up, I hope it's doing the same for you. And there is one word that immediately connects to your audience, whether you're radio, television, podcasting, and you can never overuse it. And the word is you. Right. It immediately identifies you with whomever you're talking about. I don't care if your audience is 50,000 or 5. Hey, I hope you are having hope this is picking you up like it is me, because I was having a bad day before I got in here, but thanks to you, I'm better. And it connects you to your audience. And again, it's your job. First and foremost, it's your job. But your job can still be fun, even if it's having a bad time.
And it's not about us. It is about your audience.
Correct.
That's true. And it's from what Matt was saying, there's a rule in our studio, never refer to anybody but you. It's just always you. Don't say, hey, you guys have a chance to win, or hey, you know, keep listening, everybody, because that's making everybody. It's not singling you out listening in the car on your way into work, or if you're at home working at your home office during COVID, it's not talking to you, that one person. So as Matt said, keep you as the first and foremost when you are talking to your listeners. It's you, listener.
And how everyone said, yes, it is a job. You know, your boss, you never know when they're listening. So if you're just being negative on air, maybe not gonna sound the best to them or to your listeners. So yeah, sometimes you're gonna have, you know, maybe a bad phone call that will just ruin your vibe. You'll have like a panic attack out of nowhere if you're struggling with mental health issues. And for a lot of us in radio, we also have podcasts. And that's a place where I like to let go. And that's just where I really release my true feelings of things, because, you know, our bosses let us, for the most part, do what we want with our podcasts, share what we want with our podcasts. On air, you know, we have an agenda. Whatever your demographic is, you're upbeat, you're high energy, you want to make people feel good. And if I'm not feeling good, I'll be like, hey, not feeling good, want to hear the details, check out my podcast. But now, you know, we have this song here, whatever. So that helps me out. And it also helps you connect more with your listeners, because if they want to listen and hear why you're not having a good day, they can go check out your podcast. And if not, then here's this fun song or whatever.
That's a very good point, Crystal. You can use your podcast as an extension of yourself and your personality to build your brand, build who you are, build your listener base. It's an incredible tool that you should have in your pocket along with your program. It's a great point.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a podcast, if you've got social media sites, which everyone has in spades, refer to your social media site, just what Crystal said. You know, having a down day, don't want to get into it, you want to, you know, find me on Twitter, I'll talk all about it and people will send notes. Or you can just refer to as, I don't know if anyone's noticed, Crystal behind you, I believe, is a cat, and Terry Ann behind you is also a cat. I just had to point it out.
I have 12, so I'm kind of
the journalist in me, the observationalist in me. It's like, okay, your cat just did a cameo, Terry Ann, kitchen counter. Crystal, I believe that's behind you on the bed. See?
And see, that's the beauty of radio. In radio, nobody knows you have a cat behind you.
Nobody can see your cat.
I have 12, so if anybody wants any cats, feel free to take them. I'll share.
Evolve this into a pet adoption telethon. Let's check the big board out. How many cats have we given away today?
Oh my gosh. And so with that being said, you know, with COVID, obviously it has affected everything and anything just about. How has your situations been like as far as your job? Are you having to you know, do the radio from home? I think Terry Ann, at one point you were doing radio from home, right? At one point. You know, kind of talk about how was that like? Was that different? Did that affect you in any way as far as like on the air at all?
Yeah, that was really an interesting time when we first got started. I was actually, when the whole country kind of shut down, I was stuck in Honduras. So that's how that started. So then we got back, was in quarantine, and then the engineers brought over the at-home broadcast kit and set that up. And I started doing, then I was doing mornings and middays. I was doing mornings on Soft Rock and Sunny in Modesto, and middays on Soft Rock here. And so I would be up really early, and I noticed right away that I didn't get dressed for the day. I just sat in my PJs with my coffee, and I didn't like it as much, to be honest with you. I'm a better one to go into the office and do my show. I like to get up. I like to get dressed, feel fresh, feel energized, get my news and do what I need to do at home, get in the car and get that feel of the area. How is the vibe going? How's the day feel? How does the sunrise look this morning? You know, that sort of thing, and get into work and then have that vibe transform over the air. It was really hard for me doing it from home, to be honest with you. And if we had to go back to do it again, I would not be happy, but I would. It's just, I'm not a at home kind of person. I like to be out and about. It gives me more energy to be behind the microphone, makes me feel more outgoing. That way I start to get to be introverted, and maybe Matt and Danny and Crystal can talk about that as well. I don't know, broadcasting at home, if you feel like you're just kind of turning inwards, but I certainly did. So I like being out and about and having light around me, going out driving and seeing what's happening in the world. I share that vibe on the air.
Yeah, well, I know for us at Q97.1, they didn't send us home, but they basically sent everybody else home, which for me was pretty freaking great. So not too controversial to say that sometimes you go into work and you don't always want to see everybody that you see every day.
Yeah.
So for this, not only were my hours kind of changed a little bit. So I would go in usually 10 or 11 in the morning, and my shift didn't start till 2, but I'd go in at 10 or 11. But with COVID, they said, hey, you know what? Just come in right for your shift. I'm like, all right, cool. So I just went in for my shift. There were no salespeople there at that time. Can I say that? There were no salespeople in the building. So the building, it was a skeleton crew, and it was basically for that 5 hours a day, I would go to work and it would be virtually empty. It would be me. Every day I have a mixer that we mix live at 5 o'clock. So it would be me and the mixer for my entire shift. And it's kind of cool. And it kind of reminded me of college radio a little bit, because it was, and it sucks to say, but it kind of became a little more fun to go into work every day, and it still is, and because it's still a ghost town in there. I go in and I crack the mic, and it's like, dude, this could be my basement, but this is like, I'm at a real radio station, but I'm all by myself. And again, I don't have to deal with people.
Danny, don't lie, it's your basement.
Yeah, right. But I didn't have to worry about people coming in or asking me questions about production during my shift, because I just get to do my shift, and then I'll worry about the production afterwards. So for me, it's been kind of cool. As far as the different hours that COVID have kind of all forced us to take, it's, again, you gotta see the silver linings, man, and that's it.
Sure, that's a good point.
Yeah. So my next question is, with people, obviously, I mean, now, hence, the curfew and everything going on, with people being more at home now since the pandemic, what are ways in which you all engage with your listeners now? Are you guys implementing maybe, like, whether it be new contests, giveaways, maybe like a call-in time for them to call in? And I don't know, like, is there anything new that you all are doing because of the pandemic thus far?
And let me jump in here, and thank you for that question, Tony. It's different. I am sort of the outlier as far as KMJ is concerned. From anytime after 9 a.m., it's news talk. So it's talk shows, it's calls, it's Q&A. I am news. My partner, Tony Manus, and I in the morning, it's strictly news. So we don't take calls. We do have some, call the contest phone numbers and whatever to give out, but it's dedicated news. But when it comes to COVID-19 and everything else that's undergone in the Valley, in the state, in the country since March, it's a lot of bad news more often than not. And you can beat people over the head with the numbers, with the fatalities and everything. And that's news, and you have to give them news. But one of the things, and I did this before, but I am hyper aware of it now, is that at the end of every news flow, I always try to end on something we can talk about, or entertainment news, or something a little more upbeat, to remind people that are stuck at home and maybe have been stuck at home for months, that there's still a fun world out there. It's not all gloom and doom. And that even though most of news is bad news, as my students have heard me say, you've ever heard the expression, if it bleeds, it leads. But at the same time, that's the entree. There's the bad news, but you got to give them the kicker. You got to give them the fun story. You got to give them the dessert at the end to remind folks, the sky won't fall. The sun will come up tomorrow, and God willing, we're all going to get through this. And here's a story about a guy that tried to hold up a bank and left his wallet and his driver's license sitting there along with his note and his gun. Just things like that, just to take them out of their head for a second, or to give them a chuckle, or anything to, the word is escapism. It's what, if we could go to the movies, people went to the movies for, is to escape from reality for a while. And they do that by listening to their favorite song, or tuning into their favorite team, or wanting to hear the news and being informed of the world around them. But at the same time, give them a chuckle. My background is in stand-up comedy and improv comedy, and has been for a little while too. So if I can interject a joke, even at my own expense, if they're laughing either at you or with you, as long as they're laughing, it takes more muscles to smile than it does to frown.
Self-deprecation is a very good tool in this business.
Paid my bills for years.
Right?
Yeah, I can add to that, because it's definitely been an interesting transition. This year has been crazy for so many people, and there's been a lot of social justice issues that have been, that highlight of talk. And for someone like me and for others who are, their demographic or format is high energy, fun songs. My director has really been instilling in me that even though those are important topics, we are an escape from that sometimes.
Yeah,
for people, they're always having these conversations with their family. They're on their phone scrolling, seeing all the negative, bad stuff. And if they can turn on the radio and just for a little bit get away and just forget about that for a quick second, that's also a way to, help build your relationship with your listeners, because then they'll know that, hey, you're a fun, positive, upbeat place that they can go to for a little while the whole world is what's seemingly burning into flames. So I think that's been something that I've had to learn with, and something that I did struggle with, because I'm very passionate about social justice issues and very passionate about healthcare. And for a lot of us reading these things every day, like Matt said, it could really weigh heavy on our mental. And while all of us are collectively focusing on that, if you can for a little bit just be that getaway for someone, it can really help positively change someone's day.
Yeah, that's a good point. I always try to add on my morning show in Modesto, I always try to do a couple of extra feel-good stories about people that are doing good or have had something amazing happen to them. Just like Crystal said, to remind folks there is still good happening. It's not all doom and gloom. Also found some really great websites on interesting articles on how to do things in a better way now, shopping in a better way, things that maybe my demographic could use as tools to say, okay, I heard a couple of tips that Terry Ann gave on the air on how to do this safer. So I'm going to do this. Not make everything so awful. Like Crystal says, we've got enough awful going on. We don't need more. So how can we, in our demo, use our demo and the tools we have to reach our listeners, brighten their day, but still keep them informed and still keep them feeling good?
Yeah.
Got it. And I think Anna Cruz will be asking some more questions that we have. Anna, are you there?
Yes. Thank you, Tony. So back to what Crystal was saying about she has a podcast to let go of her own feelings. Is that the same for social media, or do you guys create a professional one and one for family and friends?
That's a good question. Yeah, it really just depends on what you want to do. I've really utilized close friends because when you become a media personality on the radio and with your podcast, like there are things that you just don't want to share with everyone, but you still kind of want to share with your friends and family. So if you're not really into making like a whole separate Instagram or social media platform for those close people, you can just use close friends, or I have my own podcast Instagram. So I have like my own fan base that likes my Instagram, listens every day, understands stories and memes and stuff on that platform, to kind of differentiate, me as a media personality and me as my podcast and my voice on my station. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Cool.
Yeah,
I have kind of a gray area. So at one point I was like, all right, should I consider Danny Solis, the radio guy, different from my government name, Eric Solis? So I kind of combine the two. So I kind of use my government name on all my socials, and that now is my brand. Danny Solis, the guy on the radio who also hates the fact that police are getting away with murdering Black people. That's also part of my brand. So you can catch me on Twitter or Instagram and Facebook, and it's kind of the same dude. Like, I'm going to be talking about, hey, listen up to my show because at 4:00 I'm dropping free money. And you could check me out on my Twitter saying, hey, did you see this officer in Boise do this terrible thing to this Black guy again? So that's completely part of my brand. And I think consciously I made an effort to combine everything because that's me. And again, going back to relatability, I don't want to be someone different on the radio than I am when you catch me at Del Taco. Like if you see me at Del Taco, dude, I'm the same dude that I was talking with you earlier on the air. I just want to be that same guy. So everything as far as social media, that's my brand.
I think Danny and I were kind of in the same place for a while there. We were both at iHeart, and we're both like, we're doing our own thing. We got our social pages, and then we're told that, okay, now you got to make station page. We're like, what? Can't we just use us? I mean, that's who we are. So I think I'm the same as Danny, that I just, I am who I am. And if my close friends, they know me, my listeners know me as the same, and you're all welcome.
Yeah, it's a little different in the world of news. My social media handle has been my name from the outset, and it's at Matt Otstad on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, what have you. And it used to be just that's where I would go and post the stories that I had done that given day when I was in TV. Now in radio, I primarily post content to at KMJ Now, which is the station site. But I will throw up anything that is mine, but always conscious, always cognizant that on my bio page on the station website links directly to my personal Twitter account. So you just need to be mindful of that. And I will freely admit I have an alter ego on Twitter and on Instagram. That is sort of my hosting site, which was it is called Tastefully Sarcastic. Whereas if I want to really get off on a tangent or hop on my soapbox, or regardless of whatever the issue is, I have that outlet. But just what Danny said and what Terry Ann said, when you come to my Matt Otstad social media pages, it's me. It's my beliefs. It's what I see. It's what I feel, in addition to doing the news. Because when I do the news, it's not the time for my opinion. When I do the news, it is my job to give you the news of the day. Person X said this, person Y said that, the following that happened is Z. If you want to know how I feel about it, that's not news, that's opinion, and you can come to my social media page for it. Right. So that's where it differs a little from the radio aspect of it. Is my job isn't to interject my opinion. I am merely the conduit through which the message travels. The minute that I interject my opinion, I become a talk show host and not a news person. So I have to stay in that mindset and that mentality that I have the freedom to share what I want on my social media pages. And if you want that, that's where you can find it.
Makes sense.
Thank you. And then for my next questions, what are some do's and don'ts in radio? So like we know
always
that
wear pants.
I don't agree with that.
It's never so hot you have to take off your shirt in the studio.
I disagree with that.
Hey, I worked with a guy that did that, and that was one of the freakiest things ever.
Worked is
Awkward.
the word.
That's the
Past
that's the
tense.
word. Yep, exactly.
Well, and in all seriousness, never, ever, 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 ever get behind a microphone in altered states. Ever, ever. Because it'll probably be the last time you do so. And for as wide an expanse as the broadcast industry is, it's a very, very small business. And the last thing you want to have is a reputation of someone that will do that and get behind the microphone, because you won't be in this business very long.
True. It's a very good point.
I had a conversation not too long ago with Karina, and I said probably the biggest do in radio is protect the license. So I think that's one of the first things they teach you. Whatever you do on the air, make sure you protect that license. You could have an accidental slip up on the mic. You could accidentally play the wrong song. All that is easily forgivable. But protect the license. Don't do anything that's going to put the station or the company in jeopardy, or your job in jeopardy. Payola, plugola, obviously it's something you guys I'm sure have talked a whole lot about. Big, absolutely big don'ts. Probably one of the biggest biggest things that I've seen compromise people's positions where they're at is the whole payola, plugola position. So it's definitely something that is a big, huge red X, obviously.
Yeah. And protect your image too. I mean, your image is what you are selling. When you are out trying to get a job in broadcasting, they are hiring you and your personality. So if you've got a record, if you are posting stuff on social media that's questionable and you're doing wacky, wild things that bosses wouldn't really want on their staff, all of that will be judged, and they will look through all of that. So make sure you're proper. Yeah, they do.
And they do look through it. There is just an instant decision. If you're thinking, oh, that happens in big markets. No, it happened here in Fresno. There was a reporter, I believe, over at KC24 that was here and gone in a blink because she had some questionable content on her Facebook page that got shared around after she got hired, and she was here today and gone tomorrow. It happens. Just look at some professional athletes. They lose millions of dollars in draft stock because they're, doing bong hits on their Twitter feed. And Terry Ann is right. The only thing that you have control of in this industry is you and your brand. And once that's compromised, get used to the phrase, do you want fries with that? And I only sound that, I don't mean to be that flippant, but once your brand is tarnished, you may never get it back.
That's a good point.
I forgot which one of you mentioned. Sometimes you think global, local, but you also want to think global, and that's the case too. Yeah, Matt, because like all of us had shared, you're not just on one station anymore. A lot of radio hosts are now being asked to track for multiple markets. So if you're making your brand, only suitable for one market, or you're not thinking with a big picture, then you're kind of limiting yourself on what you can do. And that's something that I definitely had a struggle with, but I'm learning more even now that, like everyone's been saying, protect your brand, be careful of what you're putting out there, of what you're sharing, because at the end of the day, people can look at you and be like, oh, I don't like this fit. This isn't a fit for us. And just because of something you posted, something you said, you cannot have a job there or get cut from a job, like Matt shared tomorrow.
Got it. And now for the next 15 minutes, I'd like to shift to ask questions in regard to the process of getting there. So with that being said, my first question is, what advice can you give to those who are trying to find their radio voice? And, for instance, how do you sound more professional, but yet also sound like yourself? How do you balance the two?
For me, just going back to my Fresno State days, what really helped me in my confidence were public speaking classes. So like I said, a couple public speaking classes, dude, it was like light and day. It's like someone flipped a switch. If you know what you're talking about and you're confident and comfortable talking in front of 20 different eyes in a classroom, you're going to be comfortable in front of a TV camera or in front of a studio mic. That for me just helped immensely. Now in 2020, and since we're talking about it, podcasts I think are a great way to help just hone, and not even broadcasting podcasts for yourself. Just record your voice, speak about a topic, go back and listen to it. That helped me a lot too. Back in the day, we used to do air checks on cassette tapes. I would record every single thing that I said, listened back with my eyes closed, made mental notes and physical notes, and hey, how can I do better? How can I sound more like a human being in this talk break? So listen to yourself, record yourself, talk in front of people when it doesn't really count. So that way, when it does count, you'll sound that much better.
Yeah, and the other thing too, and my students have heard me say this at MCJ 125, which I'll be teaching again in the spring, God willing. No, actually I will be. So for those that are graduating, sorry to see you go. Those that took my class, Jazz, I'm sorry. Karina, I'm sorry. But the thing that I always hound and say, you want to get started, do it. Internships. It's a little nebulous right now, but get involved. I know when I was at KC24, anytime I had an intern that would go out with my cameraman and I in the morning, I had one rule when an intern went with us. I'm going to put you on the air. I'm going to hand you a microphone. You're going to be in front of the camera. You want to do this? I'm going to let you do it. So it's sink or swim. And something else along with what Danny said, in addition to recording yourself, again, getting back to my Penn State days, a couple of professors told us, find a broadcaster or two that has that voice that resonates with you, that has that delivery style, and record them. And then after you record it, listen back and kind of script out what they say, and then go back and listen as you read what they say and see and hear how they punch a certain word, how they give inflection, how they can communicate, because the words that we all use don't change, but it's the delivery. And that in turn helps you deliver that, get that delivery style that sets you apart. And again, the one thing that I always try to hit home is, Terry Ann hasn't said it, Crystal hasn't said it, and Danny hasn't said it, and I haven't said it up until this point. How many times have you heard us say the word like? No, you haven't. I was like so scared. Well, then what were you? No. If you have those vocal hangups, now is the time to A, be aware of it, and B, work it out. Because the more you can talk and communicate effectively and not do ums or not do like, or what they call lazy language, the more you can effectively develop that skill now, the more marketable and hireable you will be.
That's a very good point. I would also recommend just working on reading out loud.
Oh, amen to that.
Just learn how to read ahead in a sentence, be able to recognize inflection coming, because you may be handed a liner sheet and be expected to read it right away, and you can't read it like you are reading a liner sheet. You have to give it that personality. You have to breathe life into copy. So when you are handed it, you have to be able to make it come to life. So practice reading. Listen to commercials on the radio, record them, write down the copy if that's the only way you can get it, and read it back and compare to how you read it to how maybe the person on the radio is reading it. If you have no other tools, I would highly recommend doing that.
That's so true. When I first started out, my boss told me, why don't you just write out what you want to say on air and then just read it, and then you'll start getting better at just reading things and then also coming up with things on the spot. So even though for some of us it looks like we just crack a mic and start talking, that's because it took years of practice. Some of us wrote out before what we said. And also I forgot what I was gonna say. Well, that happens sometimes.
It makes us human. See, and like Crystal, like the expression, it took me 15 years to be an overnight success.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Oh, I remember what I was gonna say is one of you mentioned that you can, Matt, you mentioned that you can listen to someone that you really like or someone that you want to be like one day. And now with social media, you can reach out to people like that. You can ask for help.
And they will write you back.
Yeah, you can record your own practices and send them to people that you really want to be like, and be like, hey, like I really want to get into this, and here's a recording. What do you think? You'd be really surprised how many people are willing to help when you just reach out and ask.
Yeah, and
So
along with
that's something that I would say is reach out and ask.
yeah, and Crystal, along with that,
Go ahead.
if and when you reach out for help, don't take it personal. If you're asking for help and they want to give you that help, take the help. If they say, well, your voice and this, and they give you, take it. Don't take it to heart. Develop a thick skin. My students have heard me say this. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will. So if you doubt your voice, or you doubt that you have what it takes to get a job and to pay your bills doing what we all have done, you're not going to do it. But if you approach it with, damn it, this is something I want to do. I know I can do it. I want help doing it because I want to be the best at it. Then take all that criticism, take all of that help, all of those tips, and make it your own. Because there are 4 of us here on this panel, and every single one of us got to this point in a different path. There is no one set route that any of us can say, go X, Y, and Z, and you will get to where we are. No, and it's different for everyone. Even if you're a biology major with an MCJ minor or want to be a doctor, but you decide you like TV better, there's a path for you too. And don't let one door closed dissuade you, because that may open 2 or 3 more in a different direction.
Yeah.
So always be mindful of that. Always be cognizant of that. And as long as you believe in yourself, I can distinctly remember applying for my first jobs in TV news back in
What was that?
Shut up, baby. That I had people say, you're not cut out for this business. You don't have the right look. You don't have the right voice. You're not cut out for this business. 20 some odd years later, I think I do. I mean, I've been paying the bills, and it's moved me from 4 states, and I've covered everything from ground zero in New York City in 2001 to the blue ribbon pie winner at the big Fresno Fair. If I believed in me that I could do it, and damn it, I did it. And I didn't take no for an answer, and you can too.
And just to continue on that point really quick, when you do get in this business and you get fired, don't let it destroy you.
All right, wait.
Everybody gets fired in this business.
Show of hands, who hasn't been fired? Okay, good.
Yep. Yeah, it's just one of those things, man.
It's true.
Yeah, no, I mean, just wow, like such good advice there. I think, I mean, what Matt said, like you just cannot let it destroy you. And Terry Ann, you kind of mentioned it as well. You can't let it destroy you, and it's part of the business. And I feel like I think for a lot of us, that's something that many of us would take personal, but we have to just try to distinguish from taking it personal, because like you said, it's just part of the business. And so that kind of goes into my next question. You know, what are some ways in which us students, you know, we do have some students and members who are graduating next semester. I mean, we're talking months away. What are some ways in which they can stand out in a job, whether it be through an interview or maybe even starting up their own podcast? What are some ways in which they can stand out from the other candidates who are also, you know, applying to the same position that they're going for?
Your demo reel, your resume reel. That's the biggest thing. And that applies for TV and radio. And you won't learn this in a class unless you take mine. Shameless plug, by the way. That I've had news directors and program directors, and Terry Ann, you said I believe you're a PD. That when people are applying for jobs, if you don't wow them in the first 30 seconds, they're moving on, because there are a stack of tapes and resumes. So you have to put your best stuff first and be tenacious, but don't be a pain in the ass. And I mean that saying follow up, but don't follow up every hour on the hour, every day on the day, because you'll talk yourself right out of a job.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'd say just take every opportunity. I mean, you're going to stand out just by being there. Like we mentioned before, reach out to people, reach out to us. You have 4 people on the panel right now. Reach out to us. That way, when you go and apply, you'll be like, yeah, I talked to Crystal from Wild 94.9 and Terry Ann and Matt Ostott, and they gave me some good advice. All right, cool. You're taking initiative. Don't say no to any opportunity. Man, when I was just starting in radio, I used to take a drive up to Wild 94.9. I used to go and just sit in on label meetings with Jazzy Jim, who's the program director at the time, just to, number one, just to be in the building, to be in the face of Jazzy Jim, and obviously to learn what he was doing, and just to kind of get more more ammo for my gun. Do everything. Don't say no to any opportunity. Like Matt mentioned, internships, they're kind of few and far between right now just because the nature of the internship program is kind of, but man, there are street team opportunities just in my building alone. I can name 8 or 9 different people who started as street teamers, basically helping out with street events. And then they eventually made their way onto the air, which is where they wanted to go. I mean, it's baby steps, but man, just get in the building, get in the door. Again, just get your face in front of anybody who can make those kind of cool decisions for you.
Absolutely. I would also recommend anything, like Danny said, anything you can do in the building, do it. If you can start boning up on your production skills by purchasing any or getting any free production things at home to use on your computer, so you can start recording your voices. You can start learning the ins and outs of that. Also start really buffing up on your social media and learning how social media is used, because you might be able to angle your way into an online content kind of job. We had one gal that did that in our office, and she expressed interest in being on the air. So we threw her on the air on the weekends, and she started to do a great job. So she got moved over into the on air. She got moved out of online content, but she still loves doing social too. So she does both. I mean, it's really interesting there's a myriad of things you can do to get yourself in the building, but whatever it is that drives you, get in the building, get in somehow, and then you will get a foothold. If you have got a positive energy, a can-do attitude, you will be enjoyed in that building and they'll use you.
Yeah, just because you don't get the job you want initially doesn't mean that it's not coming sometime down the line. Man, I first got hired working overnights when they had an overnight person. I worked 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Monday through Friday. It was the friggin' worst, but that eventually led to where I am. You just got you got to stay focused and stay positive and know that something good is coming.
Yep, that's right.
During this time, it's really competitive. Radio is super competitive right now. People are losing jobs left and right. So it's really important for you to stand out when you're going to get in the door. And like they said, by maybe starting your own podcast, pushing your social media numbers, joining clubs like this, being heads of clubs like this to show employers that you really are serious and you really do want to help. And then once you get your foot in the building, then that's where you really put the tough hustle work in, where you're asking anyone, what do you need? I'm here. Let me stay longer. Let me do this for you. How do you do this? I'll definitely help you. Ask people what they need, because the more you can be a resource to someone, the more they're going to want you around, and the more your name will travel through a building that you eventually want to, climb up the corporate ladder or whatever ladder it is that it's there. So making yourself an asset is really, really important by showing up, being responsible, being on time, doing your work, not complaining. Like in this industry where with years you can really reap a lot of benefits, it takes years of really hard work and sacrifices. And a lot of us started off as interns, not getting paid, doing gritty work, awful hours. And then within years and with time, and for a lot of us, it's like, oh my gosh, like when are we going to get that break? It comes slowly, but it comes with you being that standout individual that does all the work that no one else is gonna want to do, is gonna put in the time, is gonna put in the effort, and is gonna do as good as you. So you have to be that, by being that standout person, just always give your out, always put in everything, and just do good work, and people are gonna want to keep you around. And if you're going to start noticing that people who haven't put in the work that you have, people who haven't gone as hard, are the weak links who are not going to end up continuing on this path, because entertainment is tough. It's really tough, because a lot of people don't make it, because a lot of people lose that motivation, because there's little rewards here and there, but it's the everyday gritty work that's going to get you to a level where you're going to be happy with where you are.
Can I add one more thing too, real quick? I wanted to say, don't be afraid of the sales team. Make really good friends with the sales team when you get in the door. Very good friends with the sales team. Offer to help. Offer to be a sales assistant. If there's nothing like what we consider downstairs in programming, see what you can do in sales upstairs. If you make good friends there, you could then lead yourself into something that is very big these days in radio, which is endorsements. Endorsements are huge. That is where the client buys you and who you are. That's why you want to make sure you have a very good brand. That's why you protect your brand, because that is where you make your money, is on your brand. And if you can bring in that money, your station's going to love you.
And you'll stay employed.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely right. And on a serious tip, that's why it's so important that you manage your brand and don't depend on people to sell you for an endorsement. You have to kind of sell yourself. You have to make yourself an asset yourself. It's kind of one of those things where it's a conversation that we've had in radio for a long time as far as ratings. Man, you could have the best ratings in the world, but if you don't have anybody to sell those ratings, it's kind of pointless. If you have crummy ratings, but you have good people to sell them, dude, management's going to be happy. Your boss is going to be happy because the station is still making money. But you can only control what you can control, and we are absolutely in control of our own brand.
Yeah, and you have to realize that at the end of the day, it is a business. There are so many aspects that are beyond your control. But Danny's right, Crystal's right, Terry Ann's right. The thing that you have 100% total control over is you. So exercise it. Guard yourself and your brand with hoops of steel, because once that's gone, you're gone.
Lots of good advice. Again, thank you. And as we wrap up it is 2:00. But as we wrap up our RTDNA event, I'd like to go around and see if anyone has any final thoughts, advice, tips, or just anything before we do end this event. So yeah, does anybody have any last minute thoughts?
I do. That's
Are you gonna plug yourself again?
No, I'm not gonna plug myself again. I've done that enough. But that's part of my brand, right?
That's right.
No, I always, anytime I'm involved in something like this, or in front of students or anyone that wants to go on this crazy road that we've all taken, I share you this two elements. One, I'm the first person in my family to ever graduate from college. Okay. My dad learned HVAC in the Air Force. He is still doing it at 76 years old. He's been with the same company 47 years, doesn't want to retire. Mom was an administrative assistant at the Senate of Pennsylvania, clerical worker her whole life. She just retired a couple of years ago. My brother is an engineering electronic specialist with Allegheny Power and Light in Pittsburgh, a blue collar guy. And the mantra was, and I wear makeup for a living, when I was in TV news. But in order to get there, my first job in TV news, when this all started, was in Zanesville, Ohio. It's as small as it sounds. There are 215 television markets in the country. That's market 212. But that was the only spot that I could get an on-air job. And you know what? I wouldn't change it for a moment. Don't question the path. And they're all right. If you can get in the building, once you're in, the hardest part is getting in the building, is getting in this crazy world. Because once you're in, as we said, it's a real small pond. And if your work speaks for itself, if you bust your ass, if you are a person that people talk about, other people will listen. And other people will go, I wonder if they would come to work for me. I wonder if they would want an endorsement deal. I wonder if they would want to come and make more money with me. And that's how it gets started.
That's a good point. I would definitely say stay strong. Don't let no's ruin you. Stay positive. And like Matt said, no matter where that door opens, run in it and prove that you are a positive, upbeat, good person that is there to work and work hard and give everything you have, because these days, that's what broadcast companies are asking for. They are asking for everything, and it can be exhausting, but don't let it get to you, because you are the brand. They are getting you, and you are the best representative of you. You can put the best you out there, and if they like you, they'll take you. And if you are you, your authentic self, you are going to be your best self. Your listeners will love you for that. Everybody will relate to you. You just have to be bold and take that step. Be strong, have thick skin, like Matt said. Don't let no's turn you away, and just keep at it. And hit me up anytime. I'd love to help. I'd love to listen to anything. I'm sure the rest of them, Crystal, Danny, and Matt, would all be happy to help out. Don't be afraid of asking and reaching out, because it can only benefit you.
Yeah, and I'll say that again. I'll kind of just reiterate what I said earlier. just take every opportunity. Like Mac mentioned, the smallest town that you've never heard of. I mean, it's a big country, man. There are a ton of markets. If you're willing to move, to start your career, to start this path, cool. You're gonna have a whole lot of doors opening for you, because someone who's gonna want to work in Gainesville versus LA.
Zanesville.
Zanesville with a Z. All right.
Named after Zane Grey.
Yep. I'm at the Google
Exactly.
Zane's Grey.
Google it.
But yeah, again, if you're willing to move markets, move states, cool. You got a whole world opportunity. But honestly, success is so subjective. It's just a matter. It's you, man. Like, success in a career, you're gonna make this much money to be happy. You're gonna be this happy in your personal life. The key is just finding that sweet spot where that Venn diagram meets. What's gonna make you content in this life, and that's the kicker. That's the trick. But again, if you have so many of these opportunities that you take advantage of, only good things are gonna happen. And reach out, network. Call everybody and text everybody.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Terry hit on this a little bit, but social media is also really, really big now in radio. People are getting jobs just because of their followers. People are losing jobs because they don't have enough followers. And someone got a job over me because of their followers. So really utilize your social media, connect with your audience, and see how you can use that as leverage to get jobs out here. Because like we all mentioned, it is getting really competitive, but it is the hard workers and those who can persevere that will continue to just go up.
And one final thing, you know what I mentioned in the news business? I said I always try to end on a happy note.
Yes,
it's not all bad in 2020 because my son is due.
Oh,
Nice.
Your son is
Congratulations.
beautiful, by the way.
That's my wife.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So there you go. Remember,
congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. But practice what you preach. Send you home on a high note, because even as bad as 2020 was, I became a father in 2020.
Yay!
Congratulations.
That's amazing.
Happy holidays, one and all.
Thank you. And so I just want to say and give my gratitude and thanks to all of our panelists for joining us. Danny, Matt, Terry Ann, Crystal, thank you for sharing some of your knowledge with us. And I'd also like to thank our officers, our members, and of course our viewers on our live stream for tuning in. And just from all of us at RTDNA, we hope you all have a great rest of your Saturday. Happy holidays. And I just want to wish you all great health. And thank you again for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Amazing.
Bye. Take care.
Safe. Take care.
Happy holidays. Bye.